And most fighting game timelines are either like Street Fighter or Tekken, where in Tekken, every game, mainline game, number title or not number title, just mainline game was a mainline game, is a game that's canon. That's one of the main games that they recommend you play. You know, most of fighting game timelines are like Tekken or Street Fighter, and the fact Tekken has numbered entries, but there's big time skips in between certain ones. So Tekken 1 and 2 take place during the 90s, Tekken 3 takes place 10 years later, so either during the mid or early 2000s, in order to introduce Kazuya and Jin's replacement, their son, who was a mix of both their movesets, was they both died during or after the events of Tekken 2 or in between Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. Then Tekken 4, 5, 6, 7, the tag games are non canon, take place either a few months to a few years or a couple years between each other. And then Tekken 8 is like 10 years later. In the Street Fighter timeline, basically the chronological order, alpha games take place after Street Fighter 1, which is kind of small. Actually, I'm gonna change because I cannot see Street Fighter 1 on there. Okay, let me go right here. But FYI, all Capcom games are in the same universe as each other. But the timeline is Street Fighter 1, Street Fighter 0, which is called Street Fighter Alpha in America, and the title Alpha makes more sense because Street Fighter Alpha story takes place before Street Fighter 2 because it's a prequel to Street Fighter 2. So an alpha is an earlier version of a game or an aspect of a game. An alpha story is an earlier version of Street Fighter 2 story because it takes place before. So Alpha makes more sense. Why would they call it Street Fighter Zero if it doesn't take place before Street Fighter One? And obviously, Street Fighter Alpha Three's canonicity is up in the air because only 25% of the events of that game actually happen. So the timeline is Street Fighter, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5. And 10 years after that, Street Fighter 3 takes place, and they do that as a time skip to introduce the next generation of characters. And then you got Street Fighter 6. But the reason why Street Fighter 4 and 5 take place so early in the timeline is because they didn't want to go past Street Fighter 3, but Street Fighter 3 failed, and Street Fighter 3 Second Impact failed, but Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is regarded as one of the best fighting games, so that's why with Street Fighter 6 they went after Street Fighter 3 in terms of the timeline. So the way the Fatal Fury timeline is that there's massive time skips like Tekken 3 and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, except their time skip was revered in a positive light due to the fact with the Tekken 3 time skip they introduced Kazuya and Jun's son Jin Tongue Twister as a replacement for Kazuya and Jun, and they were popular characters. Kazuya was a main character. He is the main character of Tekken 1. So the fact Jin has most of his moves makes people still want to play the game. Where with Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, they completely got rid of the majority of the characters' move sets in Street Fighter 3 and in Street Fighter Second Impact. But on Third Strike, they brung back all of the OG Street Fighter 2 and Alpha characters' movesets with characters who use either the same fighting style completely by coincidence or are related to them as replacements, since they're either dead due to story events like Charlie dying in Alpha and being revived in Street Fighter 5, so he does not appear in Third Strike. And the guy who has his move set is, I'm so horrible with names. What is it? Remy. Remy has Charlie's move set. But yeah, basically Real Bout takes place after the original Fatal Fury games trilogy. And Real Bout is a remake of Fatal Fury 1, except, the story is different, even though the gameplay is updated and really the same. The graphics is the same, and majority of the characters are the same. So it's a remake of that, except it has a different ending and technically a different story due to the fact it takes place after Fatal Fury 3. And this art done by Shinkiro is straight up fire. In Fatal Fury Real Bout 2 and Real Bout 3, the final games of the Real Bout trilogy are non-canon, even though the protagonist of Fatal Fury, my bad, I get mixed up, tongue twister, because they're made by the same guy. Real Bout Undominated Mind's protagonist, Alfred Earhawk, is a secret boss in Fatal Fury Real Bout 2 and 3. Even though those games are not canon, the canonicity of this game is up in the air, like Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 2. Well, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Alpha 1 and 2 are canon. But there's a time skip similar to Tekken 3, Street Fighter 3 with Garo Mark of the Wolves. See positively, as I've told you before. And Geese's son is adopted by Terry. This is Geese's son, Raikar. This is Terry in his next gen outfit, which, he wears more of a professional outfit instead of 80s streetwear. He wears like a bomber jacket, work boots, because he's working more due to being a Gen X or middle age during Mark of the Wolves, which takes place during the early 2000s to mid 2000s to 2010s, where, this game, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, takes place 10 years after that, so about in present day, late mid 2010s. So this is the Wolfgang Krauser trailer I'm going to be watching. He's one of the new season 2 Fatal Fury City of the Wolves characters. I'm going to be watching the trailer for all of them. Power Geyser! But the guy who animates the animated trailers animated the Fatal Fury movie, so he reanimated with newer, updated technology the end of the Fatal Fury 2 movie where Terry beats Krauser.
Interesting. It seems I am defeated, but I regret nothing.
And one thing interesting about Krauser and Geese are actually half brothers, and this art's great by Shinkiro. But even though Krauser is the older brother, in the artwork he looks the same age as Geese. Geese and Krauser are around the same age, with Krauser being slightly older. They're actually silent generation or boomers. They were born in the early to mid 1900s. But Krauser looks younger because he's Krauser and Geese's father's legitimate child, and due to the fact Krauser's father and Geese's father was married to Krauser's mother. Krauser's mother, was rich, but she married Krauser, who's rich, and basically Krauser and Krauser's father are from the Stronheim family, which are basically like a guild of assassins. They're basically the white version of the Chinese Zodiac family from Hunter x Hunter, which they're rich assassins, and they fought in multiple wars in Europe. I believe they're German, but But Geese, looks older than Krauser despite being the younger brother. But his mother was poor, and she died due to the fact Geese and Krauser's father abandoned Geese's mother, which means she did not have any money and she was too poor and died of an illness. And when Geese was conceived, due to her being stressed and poor, Geese obviously looked older, despite the fact he was younger than Krauser, but his mother looked older than Krauser's mother due to growing up in poverty, sickness, malnourished, poverty, etc. But yeah, basically Krauser is evil because his dad was an assassin, which is why Terry had to take him out in Fatal Fury 2 and Fatal Fury 2 the movie, which you can assume is based off Fatal Fury 2 storyline. Exact same thing, bar for bar, beat for beat, Soldier Boy, Drake style. But the reason why Geese is evil was after Krauser's father abandoned Geese and Geese's mother, which is why Geese's mother died due to natural causes or poverty or illness, stress, increased aging, etc. Geese went to meet his father, and basically Geese wasn't his father's favorite. Krauser was. So Krauser reabandoned Geese. Which, when I say Krauser, I mean their father. And his name probably isn't even Krauser, but he looks like Krauser. My bad. I meant to say Krauser and Geese's father reabandoned Geese because Geese wasn't his favorite, because Krauser's father and Geese's father lived in Germany, and obviously he's a rich cheapskate, so he does not like the son. He has to go to a whole nother country and visit, so he reabandoned Geese because he wanted to save his money for a plane ticket. So Geese was not adopted after his father reabandoned him, and after Geese and Krauser's father died. Instead, he was raised on the streets, which is why he became a mobster, as you can see. And he ended up killing Terry's father. And after Terry's father died, Terry was trained in martial arts. Except the difference is Geese basically, to sum it up, long story short, but I'm kind of going on a tangent, tongue twister. Geese, after his father abandoned him, Geese was not adopted, but Terry and Andy's parents, their parents, they grew up in an orphanage, so their parents either died and abandoned them. They were adopted by Mr. Bogard, and their last name was changed to Bogard. And basically Terry was adopted after his parents abandoned him or died, which is why he ended up, being a good guy. He was adopted, but Geese wasn't. He was raised by the streets. That's why Geese became so evil, like his brother. And after Terry his father was killed by Geese due to Geese's jealousy, Terry adopted Geese's son, who was the protagonist of City of the Wolves and Mark of the Wolves, Rock Howard. So, it is interesting the fact how genetically there's little differences, even though their facial features look similar at times. That since they had different mothers, they both look different. And Geese took after his mother in terms of looks, where Krauser took after their father in terms of looks, which is actually interesting, because they're half brothers and have different mothers. And I have a half brother, but I just call him my brother because I'm close with stepmother. But I never really got to meet my brother. He's like 20 years older than me. So like, he's working and stuff. Like, I'm a young adult, so I do know his mother more, though I'm closer with her. But that's besides the point. It's interesting seeing like half siblings in games, because it's a dynamic you don't see a lot in fiction, because it's not that common. But to get back into it, I just explained Krauser why he looks younger than Geese. But some of y'all are probably wondering, if he's the older brother, why does he look younger? It's basically because of Geese's mother, and Geese had a more stressful life. Y'all were probably wondering why he was evil if he was not raised on the streets like Geese. like gangland.
Farewell, Terry.
Yeah, in Fatal Fury 2, the movie, which the games they retconned into being canon. It was retconned that Krauser unalived himself after losing to Terry because basically Krauser wanted to beat Terry, and actually Terry's adopted dad, Terry's dad, Mr. Bogart, gave Krauser his original scars, but basically Krauser, basically was spoiled, and Geese, excuse me, was abandoned by their father. So due to the fact Terry beat Geese in Fatal Fury 1, Krauser wanted to beat Geese, and he could not take the stress of losing to the guy who beat his brother, but he believed, he was superior due to being spoiled. So that's why he unalived himself in Fatal Fury 2, the movie. And it was retconned that he did that at the end of Fatal Fury 2, the game. Not y'all like the color purple.
Father.
The new water animation in games cutscenes.
Yes, it's been confirmed. Krauser's odds of survival are thought to be high. Understood.
Yeah, so Krauser's alive, which all knows he jumped into the water and he was presumed dead. I said presumed by mistake, but I'm gonna look at this season 2 trailer.
Are you a Roblox fanatic? Microsoft Rewards has a brand new way for you to earn digital gift cards from Roblox.
Interesting. Geese is an evil version of Rock Howard and Terry. They're basically what Geese could have been if he was adopted by a decent family after his dad died. Him and Krauser's dad died specifically.
Southtown, a city of wild ambition.
But this is the ending of Fatal Fury 1 and Fatal Fury Real Bout. Fatal Fury 1, Geese dies, but Geese used the Scroll of Immortality, which he stole from multiple ancient, Chinese religious figures and martial artists to resurrect himself, which is why Geese was alive in Fatal Fury Real Bout, which had the same ending, except Geese actually died for real. So the cutscene for the ending of Fatal Fury 1 and Fatal Fury the movie, have the same ending as Fatal Fury Real Bout. So it's good, they got the same animator from the Fatal Furies to reanimate another moment, except where in the first show he reanimated Fatal Fury 2, the movie's ending. He reanimated Fatal Fury 1 / Fatal Fury, the movie's ending / Fatal Fury Real Bout's ending. He actually died at the end of Real Bout, but Geese destroyed the scrolls in between Fatal Fury 3 and Real Bout to prevent anyone else from getting immortality and gaining as much power as him. But this is when Geese avenged his father.
Fought against fate and won.
And, due to Terry being a good guy, due to being adopted by his father and trained by Tung Fu Ru, which is basically Master Roshi, he figures save Geese and he could be reformed.
But
he did not want anybody
has
to
no finale.
Like his dad was. But Geese went out like the boss.
Now, 25 years later,
gonna take you.
Are you ready to rock the city once more?
Making Rock an orphan, and the reason why Rock actually was already an orphan was Geese abandoned him and his mother. It's ironic, that Geese did the same thing to his son his dad did to him.
Familiar faces.
Mary, best girl.
The new blood collide in a furious Southtown showdown.
Come on, it's here.
Time to step.
And that.
Well, this is bad. New challengers enter the fight. A dream collaboration
Versus Chun-Li, best girl in Street Fighter.
made real.
Why don't you hum me a few bars of that martial melody?
Let's have some.
They shouldn't put Ronaldo in here as a cash grab. I mean, well, it was a crash grab because it didn't work. But I'm a Black American. Obviously, soccer is very popular in Europe, where white people are from. So white Americans like soccer, and soccer is actually the number one sport outside of America, even in countries that are mostly black outside the U.S. Was the U.S. is mostly brown now, but it's not mostly black. But basically that's besides the point. Ronaldo, he's a big deal outside the U.S. and stuff. But the problem with this is Fatal Fury is about martial arts, in the mafia and stuff, martial arts and mafia movies. And, even martial arts movies with fantasy elements, such as movies where people use ki and stuff, and like magical energies, Asian religions and stuff. Well, technically, you do have like Abrahamic religions because, Rock, Geese, Kandahar Highland, they do create, angel wings out of ki. But that's besides the point, Back to the topic, I don't think, a sports player belongs in a game. Well, he's a sports player, and the martial artists in this game, they're sports players too, except they're practicing the sport of fighting, the art of fighting. Okay, I'll stop with the puns. Everybody here knows Art of Fighting is a prequel of Fatal Fury. Okay, that was a bad joke, but Ronaldo practices the sport of like soccer. So like, what is a soccer player gonna do against a martial artist? Like, Lord reasons he does not fit.
Fun for the love of the game.
And there's more. World-class DJs are here to turn up the excitement. Original tracks keep coming. BGM that brings the stages to life.
Yeah, bro. I do not care about the
fight at full throttle with the Rev system. A dynamic tool set you can use from the moment the battle begins in the jukebox.
Cool.
Create playlist.
You can re-listen to Geese's theme. That's one of the best theme songs in gaming. Like, period. And I do like how this stage is moving, how Fatal Fury has the stages. That's great, but you don't even see that in Street Fighter. But you got Nightmare Geese, which Nightmare Geese is what happens when Terry has a nightmare about Geese killing his father, or Andy has a nightmare about Geese killing his father, or any character having a nightmare about Geese, such as Boo Mary killing her grandfather. Mary's second best girl in KOF because she's a grappler, and Fatal Fury too, but she's a grappler behind Leona Hildern, who's best girl in all of SNK. But she's just Android 18 in terms of appearance, but with the detective backstory. But yeah.
Come to pledge your.
But one thing I do like is that Krauser's back, and Krauser actually looks 70 or 80 because what they do a lot of the times, obviously drawing a character, animating a character that's old is harder to do, because you gotta animate extra wrinkles. And if they're a male, you gotta animate facial hair and completely change their previous character model to, have gray hair, or if they're less melanated white.
Your allegiance? Fan favorite characters make their way to the roster.
Nearly white because he's a white dude. I don't even gotta get into it, but one thing that I do like is that the character's hair is gray mixed with purple. Like in anime, you be wondering, are these characters' hair, is it actually like purple?